little one. Join us!
In the absolute stillness of a room consumed by shadows, where the only source of light is the cold, flickering glow of a computer monitor, have you ever experienced a sudden, inexplicable chill that seems to originate, not from the air around you, but from deep within your own bones? It is a sensation that defies the rational mind, a feeling of an invisible weight pressing down upon your shoulders, as if a silent intruder has stepped into the room and is now standing directly behind you, watching your every move with an intensity that borders on physical touch. You turn around, expecting to find a tangible person, or perhaps a traditional specter of the deceased, but the space is empty, leaving only the lingering, prickly sensation of a gaze that will not depart. This is not the work of a ghost from the past, or a soul that has long since transitioned to the other side. What you are sensing is the raw, unadulterated energy of a living human being whose consciousness has fractured and traveled across space to find you. This is the phenomenon known as the Ikuryo, or the living spirit, a concept deeply rooted in the oldest layers of human consciousness, and one that remains a terrifying reality in our modern, hyper-connected world. Unlike the spirits of the departed, which often seek closure or a path to the afterlife, the living spirit is fueled by the ongoing, pulsating life force of its sender. It is a manifestation of extreme emotional turmoil, hatred, jealousy, or an all-consuming obsession that has become too powerful to be contained within the vessel of the human body. Ancient Japanese traditions teach us that the living spirit is far more dangerous than any ghost, because it possesses a direct link to the physical world through the living heart of its creator. As long as the sender continues to breathe and harbor their distorted feelings, the spirit is constantly recharged, making it an inescapable predator that can bypass any physical or spiritual barrier. This is not mere superstition, but a complex intersection of folklore and what we might now consider the fringes of quantum mechanics and bioelectromagnetism. To understand the gravity of this threat, we must look into the historical accounts that first defined this horror, and examine how the human mind possesses the hidden capability to project itself as a weapon of pure intent. The most profound and chilling depiction of the living spirit emerges from the refined, but shadow-filled courts of the Heian period in Japan, specifically within the pages of the literary masterpiece, The Tale of Genji. The character of Lady Rokujo stands as the ultimate testament to the destructive power of a heart that cannot let go. A woman of immense grace and intellectual depth, she found herself trapped in an agonizing cycle of devotion and rejection by the protagonist, Hikaru Genji. Her pride was her shield, but beneath it lay a reservoir of resentment that began to boil over. As she lay in her bed at night, her mind consumed by the image of Genji with his younger legal wife, Lady Aoi, her soul began to fracture. Without her conscious awareness or intent, a portion of her being detached itself and drifted through the misty corridors of the palace, drawn by the magnetic pull of her own jealousy toward her rival's chambers. Within those darkened rooms, Lady Aoi would feel a sudden, suffocating pressure, a cold and damp atmosphere that smelled of funeral incense and decaying flowers. She would see a shadowy figure hovering over her, its features obscured, but its malice unmistakable. This spectral intruder did not merely haunt it, drained the very life from her, causing her to succumb to a severe and mysterious malaise. Back in her own quarters, Lady Rokujo would wake up feeling a profound, soul-deep exhaustion, her clothes inexplicably damp and smelling of the very incense being burned in the rooms of the woman she unknowingly haunted. This highlights the most terrifying aspect of the living spirit. The sender often has no control over their own spectral projection. It is a monster born of the subconscious, acting on the deepest, most hidden desires of the heart. While the rational mind remains in a state of oblivious despair, it is a reminder that we are not always the masters of our own spirits, and that our hidden darkness can take on a life of its own, to cause profound suffering to others. In our contemporary lives, the symptoms of being targeted by a living spirit often manifest as a series of inexplicable and persistent physical ailments. You may find yourself suffering from a crushing weight in your chest or a chronic stiffness in your neck and shoulders that no amount of medical treatment or physical therapy can alleviate. It feels as though someone is physically leaning on you, siphoning away your strength and leaving you in a state of perpetual fatigue. This is not a standard medical condition, but a form of energetic parasitism. The sender's consciousness has latched onto your own energy field, creating a bridge through which they can vent their frustrations and absorb your vitality. This phenomenon is often accompanied by sensory distortions, particularly in the sense of smell. You might be in a perfectly clean environment and suddenly be hit by the unmistakable scent of a specific person's perfume, or the stale smell of tobacco belonging to someone you have long since cut ties with. These are the olfactory footprints of a mind that has forcibly entered your reality, a psychic intrusion that leaves you feeling violated and exposed in your own home. From a scientific perspective, we can theorize that the living spirit is a manifestation of non-local consciousness, a concept mirrored in the principles of quantum entanglement. Just as two particles can remain connected across vast distances, the intense emotional bond between two people, even if that bond is one of pure hatred, can create a channel through which information and energy can flow instantaneously. The human brain generates electromagnetic waves, and under conditions of extreme focus or emotional stress, these waves can achieve a state of coherence that allows them to interact with the environment in ways we are only beginning to understand. The living spirit may be an accidental projection of this biomagnetic energy, a coherent thought form that carries the specific signature of the sender's identity. It disrupts the local magnetic field around the victim, leading to the malfunction of electronic devices, the wilting of plants, and the sudden drops in temperature that are so often reported in these cases. It is a physical manifestation of a psychological state, proving that the mind is not confined to the skull, but extends into the world around us. The danger of the living spirit is further magnified in our modern era by the digital landscapes we inhabit daily. Social media has created a global laboratory for the cultivation of intense, focused resentment. When a person scrolls through their feed and sees the curated, perfect lives of others, it can trigger a sharp, visceral pang of envy that would have remained dormant in a pre-digital age. This energy, when focused repeatedly on a single individual, can coalesce into a modern form of the living spirit. We are seeing a rise in what could be termed digital hauntings, where victims feel a constant, suffocating presence of judgment and malice, even when they are offline. The collective negative intent of a group focused on a single target can act as a decentralized and highly destructive living spirit, leading the victim to suffer from severe mental health crises and a total loss of life force. We must recognize that every like, every comment, and every hidden thought carries a weight of intent that can ripple through the spiritual fabric of our reality, sometimes with devastating consequences. But the horror is not limited to the victim. The person who projects the living spirit pays an equally heavy price, often without realizing the source of their own decline. To send out a piece of one's soul is to commit an act of spiritual depletion. The sender becomes a husk, their physical body, suffering from a lack of vital energy that is being redirected to sustain the haunting. They may appear sallow, their eyes losing their spark, and they may find themselves prone to sudden, unexplained accidents or illnesses. This is the natural consequence of spiritual fragmentation. In ancient wisdom, it is said that to curse another is to dig two graves, one for the victim and one for oneself. The negative energy you project acts as a poison within your own system before it ever reaches its target. If the target possesses a strong enough spirit to repel the intrusion, the energy will snap back to the sender with a force that can be catastrophic, leading to a total collapse of their physical and mental well-being. This is the ultimate tragedy of the living spirit. It is a cycle of destruction that leaves both parties diminished and broken. Protection from such a pervasive and intimate threat requires more than just physical barriers. It demands a radical strengthening of one's own spiritual and emotional frequency. The living spirit requires a resonance, a hook within your own mind to latch on to. If you respond to the haunting with fear, guilt, or retaliatory anger, you are essentially opening the door and inviting the entity to feed. The most powerful defense is a state of profound, unshakable indifference. By refusing to give the presence your attention or emotional energy, you starve it of the fuel it needs to manifest. In traditional Japanese practices, the use of salt is considered a vital tool for purification. Salt is believed to absorb and neutralize discordant energy, creating a sanctuary where the erratic vibrations of a living spirit cannot penetrate. Placing bowls of coarse sea salt at the entrance of your home or in the corners of your bedroom acts as a grounding wire, pulling the negative charge out of the atmosphere and allowing you to breathe freely once more. Furthermore, we must address the possibility that the most persistent living spirit you encounter may be one of your own making. We all carry within us a shadow self, a reservoir of suppressed trauma and unacknowledged darkness. If we do not find healthy ways to process our pain, it can externalize and begin to haunt us from the outside, appearing as a separate entity that seeks to punish us for our perceived failures. This is the ultimate internal haunting, a loop of suffering where the victim and the perpetrator are one and the same. Breaking this cycle requires the difficult work of shadow integration, the process of facing our own darkness with compassion and bringing it into the light of consciousness. By healing the wounds within ourselves, we remove the resonance that allows external spirits to affect us. A whole and integrated soul is a lighthouse that the shadows cannot extinguish. It is the realization that we are the masters of our own energetic output, and that our greatest defense is a heart filled with genuine peace and self-love. As the night deepens and the shadows in your room seem to stretch and shift, remember that the living spirit is a reminder of our profound connection to one another. We are not isolated islands, but nodes in a vast, invisible web of consciousness. Every thought we think and every emotion we feel has the potential to travel across that web and touch another soul. This is a power of immense responsibility. We must learn to be the stewards of our own minds, ensuring that the energy we release into the world is one of healing rather than harm. The haunting you feel today may be a call to look more deeply at the relationships in your life and the state of your own heart. It is a warning to let go of the grudges that weigh you down, and to seek a path of forgiveness, for your own sake as much as for others. The world of the living is a crowded place, filled with the echoes of our shared desires and fears. But in the end, it is the light we carry within that determines whether we walk in peace or in shadow. Consider the physical reality of the spaces we inhabit. Modern buildings with their rigid lines and electronic hum often trap and amplify these subtle energies. A room that has witnessed a great deal of conflict or unexpressed sorrow can become a battery for the living spirit, holding on to the resonance of a person long after they have physically departed the space. This is why it is essential to regularly clear the energy of your living environment. Open the windows to let in the fresh air and the light of the sun, which carries a natural, purifying frequency. Use sounds such as the ringing of a bell or the chanting of a mantra to break up the stagnant pockets of air where negative intent tends to gather. These are not merely decorative actions. They are essential practices for maintaining a healthy spiritual atmosphere in a world that is increasingly cluttered. With the emotional noise of billions of people, your home should be a fortress of light, a place where the wandering thoughts of the jealous and the obsessed can find no purchase. In the final analysis, the phenomenon of the living spirit serves as a stark mirror of the human condition. It reveals the terrifying reach of our own consciousness and the physical reality of our inner lives. It challenges the boundaries we have built between the psychological and the physical, the internal and the external. We are living in a time when the veils are thinning, and the hidden forces of the mind are becoming more apparent to those who have the eyes to see. Whether we are facing the projection of a distant enemy or the shadow of our own suppressed grief, the answer remains the same. We must cultivate a spirit that is too bright to be haunted. We must choose every day to be the architects of a reality based on compassion and integrity rather than obsession and fear. The living spirit is a tragedy of the human heart, but it is also a testament to our incredible power. Let us use that power to uplift, to heal, and to illuminate the dark corners of our world. As you sit in the silence listening to the rhythm of your own breathing, feel the solid presence of your own body and the warmth of your own life force. You are a sovereign being, and your spirit is a temple that belongs to you alone. No shadow can remain where there is a firm and unwavering commitment to the truth. If you feel a gaze from the dark, do not shrink in fear. Instead, expand your own presence. Fill the room with the light of your own awareness. Tell the shadows that they have no authority here. By claiming your space and your spirit, you become the master of your own destiny, immune to the wandering thoughts of those who have lost their way. The living spirit is but a cloud passing across the sun. It may dim the light for a moment, but it can never extinguish the sun itself. Walk forward with this knowledge, and let the peace you cultivate be the shield that carries you safely through the night. If this exploration into the profound and unsettling reality of the living spirit has stirred something within you, or if you have recognized the symptoms of this spiritual intrusion in your own life, know that you are not alone. The history of humanity is filled with those who have faced these shadows and emerged stronger. Your experiences are a vital part of our collective understanding of the mind's untapped potential. As we close this chapter, let the silence be a space for reflection and a source of strength. The world is much deeper than it appears on the surface, and the most powerful forces are often those we cannot see. Stay vigilant, stay bright, and remember that the most beautiful thing in this world is a heart that has found its way to peace, despite the darkness. We will meet again in the next shadow, but until then, let your own light be your guide. The mechanics of the living spirit's departure from the body are often described in ancient texts as a thinning of the vital tether, a spiritual loosening that occurs when the ego becomes so heavy with resentment that it can no longer be supported by the physical frame alone. Imagine the soul not as a solid, monolithic block, but as a fluid energy that is held in place by the tension of our daily morality and social inhibitions. When these inhibitions are dissolved by a singular, blinding focus on another person, the fluid leaks out through the cracks of our self-control. This is why many who are identified as the senders of these spirits often report a sensation of coldness in their limbs, or a sudden, dramatic drop in their own body temperature at the exact moment their victim is being attacked. The heat of their life force is literally being exported to fuel the manifestation elsewhere. In the historical records of the Onmyodo, the practitioners of yin-yang divination, this was known as the wandering of the shadow soul. They believed that the human being consists of multiple layers of spirit, and the most volatile of these is the one governed by our animalistic impulses. When this layer breaks free, it does not possess the reason or the mercy of the conscious mind. It is a creature of pure, unfiltered instinct, seeking only to satisfy the hunger of the grievance that birthed it. This brings us to the fascinating and terrifying role of the environment in facilitating these spiritual assaults. We must consider the concept of geopathic stress and how the physical layout of our homes can act as a lens, focusing the diffuse negative, intent of a distant enemy into a laser-like beam of interference. In traditional Japanese architecture, the placement of the demon gate, or the kimon, was calculated with obsessive precision to ensure that negative energy did not pool in the corners of the living space. Modern architecture, however, largely ignores these energetic currents. Our steel-reinforced concrete boxes and sprawling suburban layouts often create stagnant pockets of energy, where a living spirit can take root and linger for months. If your bedroom is situated at the end of a long, dark hallway or at a dead-end street, you are living in a spiritual cul-de-sac. The energy sent toward you has nowhere to go. It hits the wall of your home and begins to circulate, growing more dense and more hostile with every passing day. This is why some people feel an immediate sense of relief the moment they step outside their front door, only to feel the weight return the second they cross the threshold back into their own space. The haunting is not just in your mind, it is etched into the very magnetic signature of the walls you inhabit. To counter such a deeply entrenched presence, historical practitioners utilized more than just salt. They employed the power of sacred geometry and the vibration of the spoken word. The use of kuji-kiri, the 9 symbolic hand gestures, was designed